Voice check. Everybody hear me okay? Anybody who can't hear me now, speak up. Voice check. Everybody hear me okay? Anybody who can't hear me now, speak up. Alright, well, we might as well go ahead and get started. Let's see. First thing is the SHTTP viewer is still in RC. We've updated it once or twice since the last meeting. Tracked down some issues there, and are kind of waiting to see how the results shake out. Currently, it's showing a little bit of an elevated crash rate. We're not sure if that's a real thing or just an artifact of testing, so we're still trying to track that down. But anyway, it seems to be generally working. Other than that, we do have an announcement this week about upcoming projects. We've talked in the past about a bunch of proposals, and we do have one of those that's kicked off now, and so I wanted to let people know that it was happening. What we are working on now is extensions to animations. We're extending things in a couple of directions. One is the supplementary animations that we've talked about before. This is the ability to add animations that play alongside your locomotion graph stuff. So flapping wings while you're walking, or wagging your tail while you're flying, or that sort of thing. We are going to be tackling that. So that's basically just LSL changes to allow people to specify those additional animations and take them off the list as needed. So that's one piece of the animation changes we're going to be making. The other bigger piece is that we're going to be adding the ability to animate rigged objects that are not attached to an avatar. So this is something, of course, we've been talking about for quite a while as a possibility, and going to be an interesting thing to get working. It's going to involve viewer side as well as server side work. So very early stages on that right now. We're just starting with some kind of prototyping and investigations into the best way to do this. But we're what this is going to involve is basically there's going to be an LSL, a couple of LSL commands, one to say trigger an animation for a given object, and another to say to stop it. And the animations that you can trigger would be items that are in your inventory. Similar to the way that you can trigger animations from your avatar now that are living inside your attachments inventories. So exact details are still getting mapped out, and as things come along farther, we'll be chatting with you folks and keeping everybody up to date on what's happening. But in the meantime, we're happy to entertain questions and let you know how things are going to date. It's definitely not going to include everything that's ever been asked for in the context of animating objects. It's a fairly focused feature to let you do one thing. I think that's going to be enough to allow people to do some interesting things. It should be enough to allow kind of interesting, independently moving items, breedables and pets and that kind of thing, and it should be enough to allow animated scenery features would be two of the obvious applications. It's not addressing all of the use cases for things that people have expressed an interest in doing with rigged objects, and what the longer term roadmap is going to look like there is it's still, still somewhat to be determined. We don't have a complete story on everything that's going to be supported at some future time. Custom skeletons is not included. This would be based on using the same skeleton we already have. Basically, it would involve attaching a standard avatar type skeleton to an animated object, and then you can you can drive any of the joints you want in that skeleton. And that will that's obviously the simplest thing to do, since that's what we currently have support for in terms of what we allow to be uploaded and what animations we allow to play and so forth. So it would be a much larger project to allow people to specify arbitrary skeletons. Of course, you have a lot of flexibility in how you use the current avatar skeleton anyway. We will need to support joint offsets and joint positions. So if we support those, then that gives you the tools you need to kind of reshape and modify the layout of your skeleton as needed for your particular object. Let's see. One question about concern about the impact. Yeah, that's definitely a big factor we're going to need to look at. Clearly there's going to be some limits to how much of this sort of thing we can support. In terms of land impact, in terms of impact on the viewer. We don't know anything about what those limits are going to need to be yet, because we're still at the prototyping stages. But clearly that's one of the things we're going to need to look at before this goes to release, to make sure that it doesn't become an instrument of overload. Let's see. One question about can we use AO animations on Mesh NPC characters? I should probably put in a disclaimer that I'm not really keen on the term NPC, because I think that means a lot of different things to different people. Certainly we're not doing everything that you might want to do if you were trying to make an NPC avatar, at this stage. In terms of AO animations, you would be able to have a script that played whichever animations you told it to, but it would not, at least at this stage, have its own locomotion graph, right? So it doesn't have a notion of, this object in the scene is currently walking or flying or whatever, and therefore it's playing this or that animation. It's going to be entirely script driven, to say, based on what the script decides whether the thing should be playing a particular animation because it's supposed to be walking or whatever. So it's not an attempt to port over all of the functionality that's currently associated with avatars. Let's see, we had a question about changing the 5-meter distance limit. I'm not sure what you mean by that. What is the 5-meter distance limit? You're talking about the how far each individual joint can be moved, or something else? Yeah. Okay. So no joint can travel more than 5 meters from the av center. Yeah. Well, how that would probably work is just that there would still be a 5-meter constraint, but it would be constrained to the internal skeleton of the object rather than to the skeleton of the avatar that owns the object. In some senses, this is going to have some of the uh, some of the same internals as an avatar, in the sense that there will be a skeleton that's being animated, and the rigged mesh is going to reference the joints in that skeleton. But the difference is that it's not a full-featured avatar. It's not going to have its own graphical representation, for example. It's really just there for the bones, and and it's just used to drive animations of the object. Yeah, if any limits that asking about the 5 meter restriction again, yeah, any limits that are baked into the structure of animations currently wouldn't be likely to change. The intent is that existing meshes and existing animations would be able to take advantage of this feature without without needing additional modifications. Question about attached animated object. So you're talking about having an object that's animated with its own skeleton, but is also attached to an avatar. We would not necessarily be doing that, but I guess I would say there's not a definite call on that yet. The first thing we want to get working is just independent objects that aren't associated with avatars, and then find out more about the system impact and how well those things behave before we think about trying to have them be attachments. I would also have some concerns about performance impact. Obviously people already load up attachments pretty heavily, and if you have the opportunity to add lots of additional attachments that each involve their own skeleton as well, I think you could blow things out pretty fast. Let's see. One question will be current Bento skeleton. Yeah, that's right. The Bento skeleton is the current default. So the plan would be that we would include, you could potentially use all those joints in an independently animated rigged object as well. Let's see, we had a question. What about animating rigged mesh if the script tried to animate the mesh but not the avatar? I don't know. I think the way it normally works now is that you've got the scripts that are driving the animations of the avatar are inside the objects that are attached to the avatar. These would be scripts that are inside. They're inside the objects themselves. So I don't think you would want to allow them to sort of cross the beams, as it were. Let's see. Are we looking for additional work in terms of fixing up pathfinding? Yeah, not really. I understand that pathfinding probably has its own set of issues, but that's not something we're probably going to be tackling as part of this project. Uh, yeah, to sort of recap, Tapple asked a little ways back. Yeah, we're announcing that we actually are trying to add animated rigged objects that are not attached to avatars as a thing that we're currently doing early prototyping work on. So that's the plan. So skeleton assigned by script from an inventory object. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would extend to permissions. I think normally you'd assume that you should have permissions to animate your own object if you want. That a script inside an object can animate that object. Yeah. Anybody else having trouble with voice? Uh, Tapple says the script needs a way to know which object you're animating. Yeah, I guess I've been thinking of it as the script is actually inside the animated object, and it has permissions to animate its own object basically. If we're trying to have one script that was animating multiple objects, then that would get more complicated, and we need some kind of an object ID. So should be no permissions necessary, not with an object. This is an object, right? Yeah, this would be a mesh object. I don't know yet if it needs to be a new type of object or if it needs to have just a new, flag added to it. To say, okay, make this an animatable object. Give it its own skeleton. But in any case, it's going to be in the same family as the rigged mesh objects that we already have. Yeah, so if you're trying to animate a rigged object made of multiple linked objects, I mean it's really the same problem you have today, right? You can have a rigged mesh attachment that actually consists of it's actually a link set with a whole bunch of different rigged objects inside it, so the intent would be that it would work the same as it does today, except that it's animated with respect to its own internal skeleton rather than the avatar skeleton. Assign the skeleton, body shape, and avatar physics on the fly and swap them out. Yeah, so, for the initial, um, for this project, we don't really have a notion of body shape or avatar physics, right? These things, uh, they're rigged mesh objects, but they're not really avatars. They don't have a current outfit folder. They don't have a list of wearables, including body shape and physics objects and so forth. So, um, the main way that they connect to avatars and skeletons would be just through having associated animations. Um, so at this stage we wouldn't be looking at wearables. Lucia, I would think if you wanted to morph a biped to a quad, you could just do it through an animation, couldn't you? I mean, you don't actually need to have a different skeleton. You just need to position its joints differently, right? Question: could several rigged objects rigged the same be linked and have the same animation played? Yeah, I mean you can do that today. You can have a mesh attachment on your avatar that actually consists of multiple pieces that are separate prims that are all part of the same link set. So that should work just as well with an independently animated object. One question: will we be able to sit on them? Probably. To the extent that you can sit on objects today, the fact that it's playing an animation may make it trickier to make it look right, but I don't think there's going to be any fundamental issue with allowing that. We'll kind of have to see. We haven't done any tests with that yet. Yeah, I would hope this would work for things like vehicles or rideable uh, beasties or whatever, but again, it's very early stages, so we don't really know what potential gotchas there would be for that. Lex says we couldn't use current wearables, but could make specific wearables. I'm not sure what you mean by that. We don't. When I'm talking about wearables, I mean the specific types of things that are associated with system avatars. So you have a skin and a shape and you can have shirts and jackets and so forth. That all gets composited by baking. That's the stuff that we wouldn't have associated with these animated objects. There would, of course, you could have if you're using link sets, you could presumably link meshes that look like clothing or whatever. Um, but of course, this also implies a limitation that you don't really have control of all the sliders that we have today with avatars, right? Those the slider values also come from the wearables. It's part of most of them are in the shape. So if you don't have a shape, then you don't really have the same notion of okay, I want to make this guy taller or wider or longer arms or whatever. I'm not ruling out the possibility of some future project that might look at that sort of thing, but that's not part of this thing that we're announcing today.
We could do it with animation too. If we had the ability to use scale with these NPCs, then we could do a lot more with them.
Yeah, scale is kind of an interesting question. The way everything works now with attachments on avatars, everything just kind of follows along with the avatar skeleton. But I wonder if it would make sense to try to add some kind of some kind of a global scale so that the skeleton kind of accommodates itself to the size of the object it's being attached to, or something like that. Of course, objects themselves can be scaled, right? If you're editing a static object, you can go in and uh, make it larger or smaller. But if you attached it to an avatar, then that's going to kind of supersede whatever you'd set there. What should we call them? Right now I'm calling them animated objects. If we come up with a better name, I'm happy to start calling them something else. Midu suggests animated meshes. I don't know. Is that clear or not? It doesn't necessarily distinguish between meshes you have attached to your avatar and meshes that you don't have attached to your avatar. Armatures, I don't know. I would think about the armature being more like the skeleton that drives the object rather than the object itself, but maybe not. I don't know. NARM sounds like it should be some kind of a activist organization or something. Oh, Oz is here. Howdy, Oz.
Hi, everybody. I just had a break between other meetings and thought I'd stop in.
Well, we're talking about animated objects, but I don't think anybody wants them. There's not much interest.
Well, we can switch you off and have you do something else.
Yeah, well, maybe a little bit of interest.
Don't even play with us.
Come on, you gotta let us have a little fun.
Lucia proposed the name Project Alive.
That's a good name. I like that.
I was checking to see if I was a month late on April Fool's.
Well, it certainly suggests some good GIFs we could add for it. It's alive. Question about a blog announcement. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have some kind of mechanism for people to comment other than this meeting. Maybe just a thread in the forum. But whether we'll be doing a blog post is a question that would need to be kicked a little farther up the chain. We can talk about it.
May I suggest possibly a poll, like later on down the line when you figure out what you, well, instead of just having like all of Second Life population commenting in a forum, kind of have like a poll on that forum with a list of questions that people can then like vote on or something.
Yeah, it's possible we'd wind up using polls at some point. There was a stage during Bento development when we had a poll about which skeleton features, which new bones people were most interested in, and we got some kind of interesting feedback from that. I would say at this stage it's we're very early on and we're just doing the initial kind of technical investigation, so we don't we don't really have the list of kind of specific questions that we need that type of input in right now, but it's certainly possible we could get to that stage at some point. Question about a new user group. No, we're not going to be having separate meetings. We'll discuss the topics related to it at this meeting, which covers content creation in general. At some point there will probably be a project viewer out that only works in certain restricted regions. Since of course there's sim changes for this as well, and at that point then people will be able to pile in there and try things out. There might be times we'd want to meet somewhere else to be able to test things.
I don't understand what they're talking about alphas. I don't see how that differs from the capabilities already.
I'm not sure. There were a couple of different comments about alphas. There was one thing about alpha cycling. Yeah, obviously the intent of adding something like the ability to do uh, skeletal animation uh, is to avoid needing to do a lot of alpha cycling to animate things. If we're talking about alphas on mesh objects themselves, it would probably be the same capabilities you have today there. Medu, please don't call them NPCs. I think it's an overloaded term. Yeah, changes to materials are their own thing. Obviously there's a lot of requests for being able to support more textures and different kinds of textures and separate alphas and all kinds of goodies. But we'd have to address that as its own thing. It's not specifically part of this. Yeah. So as I say, this is early stages. One thing we don't know for sure yet is order of things getting released. Uh, of course, the rigged animated objects and um, the animation extensions for supplementary animations are both going to involve some back end changes, but the uh, the extended animations, the supplementary animations, don't require any viewer changes. So it's certainly possible that those will be coming out first, while the rigged object work is still underway.
Is what's the how do you think you're going to go about doing this additional animation stuff with the bento bones? I mean, we have kind of a system that works now with regular animation. Is it going to be similar, or is this something that you purposely add on?
I guess I'm not sure I understand the question. Are we talking about the supplemental animations like the wing flap in addition to walking and that sort of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh, well, the way that would work is there would be additional LSL commands. We right now you have a set animation override command that lets you say, override my walk with this other animation. And there would be, in this case, there would also be a command to say, uh, augment my walk with this animation, which means that when I'm in the walking state, also play this additional animation as well. Um, so, that then would be managed by the simulator. Of course, it keeps track uh, of your locomotion state. It knows when you're walking and when you're doing something else. So it would then be able to issue the appropriate request to say, okay, start this animation, stop this other animation.
And this would be like somewhat unlimited. So I might be wearing wings. So I might be wearing an extra set of arms or something like that, which could all use these functions and they won't have any problem interacting.
Uh, yeah, based on past experience, I don't like the term unlimited, but um, certainly you can have more than one of these animations going at the same time. You could have a pair of wings that would request a supplemental animation for flapping, and you could have a tail that would request a supplemental animation for, tail swishing, and um, we'd be able to manage a set of those animations on the simulator so that potentially multiple animations could be triggered on or off based on what state you're in.
But
And
in order for that to actually work in practice, what most of those animations would have to be non-overlapping. That is, they would have to be right. The animation
mhm.
for wings would have to be constructed so that all it animated was, wings or only wings and shoulders, right? And then
Yeah,
you're,
that's a good
so that
point.
it's not tripping over the thing that makes your tail swish, right?
Yeah, you certainly couldn't have animations that were trying to fight over the same bones.
And if they
If you did,
did,
the results would be
the
probably
existing priority
unsatisfactory.
system, yeah, the existing priority system would do what it already does.
Yeah,
Right, right. I was just wondering if it was many different, layering functions or one function that we could call for any time we were adding something on top of a walk.
Yeah, probably I don't have the exact syntax yet, but it's probably just a call that says, okay, add this animation to the set of extra animations associated with this particular state, and you can call it multiple times to build up a set of multiple animations. And of course, similarly, you'd have something to say remove a particular animation. When the wings get detached or whatever, they would be able to deregister their associated animation. Um, and then we'd probably have a blow everything away that would remove all of the supplemental animations, for a state as well. So you could also have that option.
No, I like this. I was just worried that it was going to be this like layered system, and but I like that it's just one other call and you can play whatever set of bones you want.
Yeah, I mean the intent is to do the simplest thing we can, from an LSL perspective, and just give you the hooks you need to drive this stuff.
Veer, have you ever thought about the possibility of making the root of the skeleton an actual prim, like say a cube, so that the cube could serve as where you can put scripts in it and you can link different prims together to create link sets, or have all the advantages of the cubes or of a regular prim, or even just to make the prim invisible so that the mesh actually has physics. Because I know, mesh we wear is actually phantom. If we had a cube, say an actual prim at the base of it, at the root of it, it would give us all the abilities that prims have, on top of all the animation abilities of a skeleton.
Yeah, I guess I'd been thinking of it as basically, working like the rigged meshes that you can attach to avatars today, in the sense that they can already be link sets. They can have multiple, it can be kind of multiple objects in one, and they can have inventory. They can have items that are stored inside them, including scripts and animations. Of course, if you put an animation inside an object today, it's not going to do anything when it's not attached. But the point is that it can manage its own inventory. In terms of the physics, I'd have to look at that. I'm not sure if there'd be any obstacles to just associating physics with the link set, or if you need to have a separate object for that. I know you can you can define a physics shaped with your mesh at the time you create it, so that should be persisted in there somewhere. Yeah, morphing physics shapes probably not. The intent isn't to have the skeletons all be physical so that you're I don't know, waving a bunch of tentacles around and thrashing things in the environment or whatever. It's we don't do that now with avatars, and we wouldn't be looking to add that kind of thing to rigged objects first.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess using the avatar capsule would be one possibility. But yeah, we don't really have the answer for exactly how the physics side of things is going to work. Except I'm pretty sure it's not going to be animated physics or morphing physics. Question about IK solutions. Yeah, I mean IK is an interesting thing. I think that would probably need to be its own project, though. That's not currently something that we're including with this with this kind of animating objects push. IK built into the animation system. You mean the constraint stuff that is supported but completely undocumented, and I'm not sure if anybody uses it or not. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. It's obviously the intent would be that if you've got an object that has an avatar type skeleton associated with it and can play standard animations, there I don't know any particular reason that the constraint stuff shouldn't work, but we need to look at that. Eyes on rigged objects. Well, yeah, good question. Seems like they should work. If you've got, a link set you've got that includes separate eye objects that are rigged to the eye bones, it kind of raises the question of whether any background animations get run though. Like we've got the avatars have sort of automatic eye animations that are driven by the viewer. I'm not sure whether it makes sense to to support that in the context of these animated rigged objects or not.
Oh, I'm sure we have like 10 minutes left for the meeting. I just wanted to bring up that there might be people out there wanting to know about anything going on with the texture baking or on avatars.
I don't know. Did you lose voice? Sorry, Mido, I think I may have missed your last question. Could you hit me again?
Oh, I just thought people watching the live stream, there might be people out there wondering about what might be going on with the whole baking avatars, baking textures on avatars.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought I answered that, but maybe people didn't hear me. Basically the answer is we don't have an answer yet. But we'll hopefully have more to say about that in future meetings. No, it hasn't been dropped, but hasn't been uh, definitely undertaken yet either. Yeah, I mean, if we did have bakes on mesh, then that would kind of add its own set of questions for exactly how that would work with these separate objects, right? If you enable bakes on mesh for something that's attached to your avatar, then you know which texture to look for because it's your avatar's texture. If you've got an independent object running around that isn't specifically associated uh, with somebody's avatar, then whose bake is it supposed to be asking for? Question about animated objects having wearables and attachments. Not at this stage. We're really talking about kind of a very focused uh, capability for this project, which is just to say, okay, you can play animations with rigged objects. That's not to say that other stuff might not be considered in the future, but there's not any definite project announcement right now. Supporting wearables and attachments and baking and all that fun stuff is definitely outside the scope of what we're talking about right now. People want harems of strippers. Well, like, it's I guess that's an application. And yeah, rigged mesh close should basically work the same. The difference being that we don't, if you don't have wearables, particularly if you don't have a body shape associated with a mesh object, then that means you also don't have support for all the various, sliders for that drive the skeleton. So that's going to somewhat limit things. Even your skeleton's gender is determined by that shape. If you don't have it, then you're just going to get the default joint position for the skeletons plus whatever else gets done by animations. So yeah, we've had a few questions about resource limits, and I don't disagree with any of those. We're definitely going to look at performance impact before this thing goes live, to make sure that we're imposing some reasonable limits, so we don't have a separate skeleton for every, I don't know, mosquito or something that people decide to unleash on the world. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll certainly look at performance impact. There's nothing implemented yet, so I can't test its performance impact until there's something to test. But we'll certainly be looking at it as we get farther along on the project. So yeah, well, I guess we're about at time, but anyway, looking forward to continuing to talk to you folks about this as it comes along. During the Bento project, we got a lot of great feedback and suggestions from people, with the project that really helped shape it in the direction of being as useful as possible. So looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say about this stuff as we get closer to something shipping as well.
Thanks, Veer. Really, I think you guys were just afraid that we were going to kick you in the butt again.
Well, that's always a risk.
Thanks, Veer.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later and keep you in the loop as this continues to evolve.
Awesome.
We'll see everybody next week.